Okay, we're back to the introduction. We're learning extremely sensitive, fine things. And to expect that we should understand and sense the full impact of what it is a little bit too presumptuous. However, as I said, even if it touches you for one moment, you're no longer the same person. And therefore we're pursuing this same thing again. We are on the bottom third of the top section on page Mem Zayin. The line begins with the word hitgalut, and we are at the end of that line, stepping into a parenthesis, a very brief parenthesis. What we just finished saying before this parenthesis is that even if there is a hitgalut of the spheros altogether, not individually, that will still represent a union of metziut, because hitgalut causes metziut. It says goyre. So that even if it was hitgalut altogether, it would also be also metziut. Not in a parenthesis or move on. However, it's understood. That were not the same kind of metziut as when the hitgalut is in the form in the mode of a madrigas proteus of individual madrigas. Individual madrigas are clearly emphasizing their metziut, and we discussed the singing metziut quite extensively. In principle, metziut, just to refresh, in everything there is the cause and the source for it, and then there is its own presence. Like the motion that we had, which is really an excellent motion, that is from the car concept. And we said, car, the idea of car, is something which is born within the spirit of man. Because human beings were meant to capture the world, and therefore they have to be able, it's part of their impetus to travel and cover the world. Just to reflect, they did that even when traveling was extremely dangerous from many perspectives. Number one, the roads were full of bandits. And additionally, if you travel by boat on the high seas, it was dangerous. The boats were not Queen Elizabeth's then. You know, the Rambam's brother drowned on the journey, on a business journey. He used to support the Rambam, and the Rambam had to learn. When he drowned, then the Rambam had to take over the responsibility of his parnosa. That's when he became a doctor. Despite the fact that it was so dangerous, people traveled all the time. Now we've come to a point where we created cars. Cars is really an extremely fine invention, fine creation. And it is so fine that people have extended it to such an extreme that they forgot about what is the purpose, what is the spirit behind the car. They create the best cars, the most durable, those that can carry sustained speeds unimaginable, are cars made for sports. Sports is a purposeless vehicle. It's a vehicle that speaks of the car itself, not in terms of its human value. There is no human value in sports. And I pointed out many times. Can you imagine the car industry developing to what it is because people wanted to have a sports car? Really, this is not what happened. Oh, yeah, okay. The car industry developed because of the value, of human value of the car. And then, when it developed at a certain point, people forgot about the initial spirit, and it became an entity unto itself. It became a metziut. That's what a metziut is. Metziut, and a standalone metziut that lost its spirit. So the Rebbe is saying that when once things come begilui, there's an element of metziut. Of course, there are different levels. And he says that even if all the spheres, the misgala, together, it would still be a Ayin for metziut. Okay. Well, clearly, there's a difference between if they are misgala together, or the misgala individually. Individually, they are much more of metziut than they represent altogether, means representing the full impact of that spirit, of that oil. Okay. After the parentheses. However, if they were to be nizgala all together, despite the fact that there would be metziut, there will be there ribuy oil. And ribuy means a lot of oil, an excess amount of oil. What is that? What does that say? Ribuy oil is a statement that speaks of the source, speaks of the etzem, of the reality of things. This is oil, ribuy oil. Like we say all the time, a table has its practical usages. But then there is an oil element in a table, which is way beyond the practical usages, which is representative of the spirit, of the human spirit that creates this table. So if the spheres were got all together, there would be also metziut, but nevertheless there will be ribuy oil, an excess of oil, a lot of oil. Let me give us a little bit of a handle. Oil. It's possible to expose any different oil in a very clear way. So you have a means to actually reflect on it. Say, for example, you come into this room and the table's standing here. And you want to get from there to here. The table is an obstruction. The table doesn't let you go. So you're forced to go around to reach this place. From this perspective, this pathway here is the result of an obstruction. You follow what I'm saying? You can't go through the table, so you have to go around it. But then there's another way of viewing it. The reason the table was put where it is, was not put against the wall, is in order to create a pathway around the table. This pathway is, in other words, not an inadvertent result of the limit of the table, but this is meant as a pathway for human beings to go around the table, to go to the other side, and so forth. This element, where there's the absence of obstruction, right? The absence of obstruction, because there's a pathway, is really Iyar. It does not reflect the limit of the table, the smallest of the table, but it reflects a purposeful principle. This is an aspect of Iyar. Iyar is where the principle, the fact that this is a human home, is clearly expressed. If this were a showroom of tables and chairs, they wouldn't have to stand this way. They would stand against the wall, and one on top of the other. As a matter of fact, I once went in to see chairs. So the chairs were standing on top of the table. Whatever, it was such a place. In other words, this was a chair, and the whole setup had no Iyar. It only had the metziut that came. So Iyar means that it speaks of a different reality than the tangible. Even the way you set up your tables and chairs, there's also the element of Iyar to permit to when people go around, they feel that they're walking where they intended to be walking, not where they find their way. Let's make Iyar. Likewise, our streets are not just absent of buildings, but you're not allowed to build in the street. You're not allowed to build in the street because the city won't let you. Why? Why don't you let me build it? So I'll pay you real estate taxes if you let me build over here. No way. This is a city inhabited by human beings. You have to be able to go around. You follow? This is the concept of Iyar. Something that represents a different reality. Okay, let's go back.
This is not rebud, right?
What?
This is not rebud, or this is just our.
It depends. Depends on this. I have all kinds of mishalim that we can go. You have enough in this. But the fact that only one sphira was drawn out, so then that sphira is in bebchinas, is in that quality of miud ha'oir, of a reduced oir. If there will be a lot of spheres, many spheres, there will be riboy oir. There's only one sphera, then that would be miud oir.
What do the two words mean, Rabbi? What do the two words mean? Are they verbs, or the two words riboy and miud? What does them mean?
Riboy means a lot.
It's a noun. It's an adjective. What?
Oh yeah.
Abundance, riboy.
And miud means a little.
Reduced.
Reduced.
I will leave this alone, at least for now. Okay, mashal. Okay, the Rebbe is giving us a mashal that we really have to focus on. Okay, mashal. This is like the mashal of oil v'ziv hashemesh shebesefer shabein. In Tanyo, the Alter Rebbe presents a mashal of oil, of different qualities of oil. And he says, there's oil v'ziv hashemesh. They receive the shine of the shemesh. This is an element we spoke about many times, but I have to repeat the principle so that we will not fly away and view the shemesh the way the world sees it. The world sees the shemesh as an energy source, and the light is the result of combustion, of the heat of the shemesh, and that produces energy. This energy, when it touches an object, becomes light. It is deflected, it becomes light. Not really light, it's deflected in the sense so you could see. So when it touches your eye, you'll be able to see it. It is not light for what the Torah refers to as light. I mentioned many, many times, and I hope you find a means to reflect on it. Light was created before the sun was created. So it says in the Holy Torah. This is one of those challenging moments in the Torah, that the world is saying, look at this. The authors of the Torah didn't know what they were talking about. How can you have light without a luminary? Is it a dream world over here? There was light in the first day of creation, but the luminaries first came on the fourth. What kind of light was it? I don't know if you're familiar with this, but this is a very, very big bone of contention. You know to what extent? To the extent that when they're establishing educational curriculums in public schools, and some people, the Bible says, yeah, we can teach evolution, but we should also teach creation. You know, those days there was a lot of religion in America. We should also teach the principle of creation, as based on the Bible. So this was in court. So the smart aleck lawyer gets up and he says, "You believe everything it says in the Bible?" "Yes." "It's all correct?" "Yes." "Okay. Read the first day of creation. Light was created. Now, where was the luminary, the sun, created?" "The fourth day." "How was the light before the luminary was created?" He made a mockery of the whole thing. This is how creation was taken out of the schools. How are you going to teach something that is self-contradictory? What's the reality behind it? They did not understand that light is not an energy. Huh? Not an energy. This is why the Torah says Hashem called the light day. Day is a completely different reality. It's just like darkness isn't everywhere, day is everywhere, automatically. As we point out, we had already many Rishonim for this, that when you own a home and you come into your home, automatically the minute you own the home, your presence is everywhere. This presence is called Iyar. We spoke about it either yesterday or the day before, I remember exactly. I said, when you build a house, you build a house. The minute a person owns it, it's no longer a house. What is it?
Home.
A home. A home and a house are not the same thing. It's kirchek mizrach lemayla. I don't think I have to elaborate that. I mean, there's much to talk about it, but I'm going to let we are now in a mode where we dig into our own seichel. And how long does it take for the house to be transformed into a home? It is not on time basis. The spirit of the man, human being, does not have to spread into the house in order to become a home. It's there automatically if the person owns it. Because this Iyar is something which is all-encompassing, which is infinite. No matter how large the house is, it becomes, every less corner of that house becomes his home instantaneously. How does that happen? I'm going to let you think about it. But I urge you to think about it. Not that we'll be able to put it into words and make sense, but to sense that this is the reality. This is the reality. This is what God created.
Iyar.
Huh?
Iyar.
The principle of Iyar coming from a metziut. Principle of reality. So, the sun, the Iyar should never be imitation. The Torah was created in the first day of creation was concealed because the world could not tolerate and remain a world. And instead, it was replaced by the sun. You have to understand, the sun did not eliminate this Iyar. That Iyar was imbued into the sun, except now that because there is a sun, it's no longer so baffling, so completely out of whack. There's oil for the title luminary. There is a luminary. But the oil that this luminary provides is still not energy source, but oil. And in what way is this expressed in Chassidus? Please listen to this. It's expressed in Chassidus by saying that when the sun rises, it is not merely the energy, the light that it spreads that illuminates the world. It is its presence that transforms the world from dark into light. Because the sun is an etzem mehiri, light to the sun is a reality. Light to the sun is like darkness to us. It's a reality. It's not something that has to be manufactured. It's called etzem mehiri. You hear the word etzem mehiri. In essence, that's bright. That essence mehiri, once it shows up on the horizon, Etzem claims the entire environment where it is to be his. Just like a human being owns a home, a house, the entire house becomes his home, instantaneously. That's the principle of Etzem. This is oil. It's a concept representing an atzmi, a reality. This is oil HaShemesh. Alter Rebbe goes a step further. Let's look inside. Commercial oil B'Tzim Hashem. That's 5 lines from the 5 lines from the end of the paragraph, the end of the line. Commercial oil B'Tzim Hashem as the muscle of the oil, on the light and the shine of the sun. Sphira shel beinim. That is given in sphira shel beinim and Tanya. So the Alter Rebbe says the following. Now this oil B'Tzim Hashem. I have to introduce this a little bit. I'm sure you, I hope you everybody says chitas. Alter Rebbe says like this. This oil B'Tzim Hashem, this reflection, this shine of the sun, that encompasses the entire world instantaneously. The entire world. This oil B'Tzim Hashem surely also illuminates in its own place. The Shemesh is a huge body. So the body, the space of the body that this body occupies certainly is illuminated by this oil B'Tzim. What the Alter Rebbe says. That's a reasonable assumption. He says it in the form of a kal v'choiner. If it's able to spread out and illuminate that far away, for sure it can illuminate its own, b'mkom yamamash, in its own place. This is what Lashon Time.
You translate ziv by reflection.
Sorry?
You translate ziv by reflection.
No, ziv means a shine.
A
Shine, a ray.
A ray.
A shine. Reflection would not be far off. A ray normally means something that has a beam, that has a tangible presence. But ziv does not have a tangible presence. Like I said, the illumination of the world by the sun is not by its ziv, but its own presence. Just as the occupation of the home is not by the person claiming occupation, but his presence. I'm explaining it, but I'm urging you, don't try, please do not try to find something tangible in this, because there is none. The whole thing is a sacred concept, at best. It's really a neshama concept. In our seichel, in our chokhmah, we can perceive that this is exactly what happens. This is exactly what happens. And the motion of the human being all the way home is a very convincing motion. It gives us a handle on this principle. Everybody understands this, right? Hello? You bought a house. Prior to you buying the house, it was a physical structure of a certain form. The minute you bought the house, it's no longer called a house, it's now called a home. You didn't even move in yet. But your spirit, your ownership of it, transforms it into a home. A home is a completely different concept, as I mentioned. And this occurs instantaneously and in total. It doesn't occur because there is some kind of an oil and zip coming from the human being spreading into the house. It is the human being's own presence that creates this spirit. Do you understand that? Hello?
Like it's not tangible, or?
Do we see this?
Yeah.
Do we see that the transformation from a house into a home took place automatically without any effort on the part of the human being? Without any input, without anything coming from him. It's his presence that affected it. Right? This is similar, although finer, to the motion of the host and the guest. We've said many times that if you invite somebody for lunch, the significance of your presence at this lunch is not his eating and your eating. Because if you invite him for lunch and you serve him lunch, and then as soon as he sits down to eat, you say, okay, enjoy your lunch, I have to go elsewhere. The whole thing is a flop. Do we sense that? It's an insult. The principle is missing completely. Why? I gave you lunch. It's a good lunch. Why is the principle missing? Because the principle of this is not what you give me, it is you, your own presence. I cannot give you a piece of myself. And your presence, I get this oil of your presence. This is something which everybody understands, I'm sure. This is something which is very commonly experienced. The same is true of a person becoming an owner of a home. Now the most difficult challenge, and the same is true about when the sun illumines the world. The sun illumines the world by its very presence. Just as the host spreads, imbues special quality by his presence. Just like a person owning a home imbues a special quality in the home. Now, the sun, when it rises, and it illuminates the whole world. It is true, it is its presence, but it's present as it is represented by the shine, by the shine of the sun, of this presence. So the Alter Rebbe takes you a step further. And he says, does this light, this illumination, exist in the place where the sun itself is? And the sun itself is occupied. The Alter Rebbe says, for sure it is there. If it can spread across a huge expanse of space, surely it can illuminate its own place. I'm not going to challenge you. I know it's a very difficult thing to understand, but that's what the Alter Rebbe says. Think into it to the extent that you can. Then the Alter Rebbe says further. So the Alter Rebbe says, the line, 4 lines from the bottom, at the beginning. Shebego the guf kader hashemesh. That the Alter Rebbe says that in the guf, in the very body, inside, the kader hashemesh, the ball of the sun, who b'yeses eis. That light is in greater measure. B'bchinas riboy ho'ir. In a bechina that can be described as riboy ho'ir, an excess of light. We'll go to few words and we'll discuss riboy ho'ir. Will be his galus, but then when this oil come, be his galus external to the sun, then it's internal to the sun and external. When it be his galus, mismaid ho'ir, then the oil is reduced. This same oil that's inside the sun, when it comes outside the sun, it's reduced. We can quite well define this riboy ho'ir and in this context and miyud ho'ir. And that is that inside the sun, the oil is not intense, it's so all-encompassing that permeates everything. You would not be able to see anything. No object can be identified in that realm of light. Outside of the sun, we can identify objects, even though it's also a fundamental light, an infinite light. Still, you can identify objects. Because outside of the sun, the oil is reduced to much lesser power of oil. Again, come back to our mashal, which is very important in this case. You're in somebody's home. In somebody's home means that that there's an owner, and you are in his home. Wherever you go, you are in his home. compare that of being not only in his home, but in his presence in his home. You sense what I'm saying?
I missed that. Compare that to what?
To being in his home, in his presence in his home. When you are in his home, yes, you are in his home, but there is a home. It's his home, but there's a home. When you are in his presence, the home element vanishes. Because the holding of this home is because of his effect. Here he is himself there. So the whole element completely vanishes. The same is true with the Oir HaShemesh. Again, it's very difficult for us to project it because we are not talking about physical light that we are normally accustomed to think of it. We're talking about the effect of the brightness of the principal brightness of the sun. Like we said many times. Think of it this way. Light to the sun is as real and fundamental as darkness to us. Is darkness a creation in our perspective? If you take away light, do you have to bring in darkness? It's deafening. The silence is deafening.
It's darkness.
Everything is a creation.
Does it have to be brought in?
No, it's already created.
I don't know if I relate to darkness being fundamental.
That's what it says in the Torah. The choshech hat mezhoin. When the world was first created, it was choshech.
I'm just not aware of it as being fundamental.
I said, let's not try to find a tangible means of relating to these things.
No, but you're saying that light to the sun is as fundamental as darkness is fundamental to me, and I don't really relate to darkness being fundamental, so it's
Really?
hard to, yeah.
How do you get darkness? If you turn on the lights off, what happens?
That's true. It comes right away. It's
How?
instantaneous.
How?
Because it's the primary state. That's
It's a
what-
primary state. That's why you're relating to it.
Well, I have to think about it. I don't immediately relate to it as being fundamental. I don't.
You never
feel-
think of it, but when I pointed out to you, it is a fundamental thing. You're not surprised when you turn the light on and it becomes dark. To the sun, light is of the same fundamental presence as darkness in this world.